we talked to you at our last Hard Money conference about what you think of Bitcoin. And I'm paraphrasing here. You basically said you haven't figured out what drives it yet, and that's what's keeping you out of the market. Now, I'm wondering, has the recent news flow or price action changed your opinion since we last spoke?
Well, I think it has changed my opinion or evolved my opinion sort of in two ways. One, I think the question is, are the sort of macro drivers that often get connected to Bitcoin the things that are driving it? And I think there was a moment there where it looked like it might be emerging to be closer to macro drivers. And we talked about maybe closer to trading like gold. I think the last 6 months or so have moved away from that direction. And in particular, there's a number of instances, like, for instance, with the conflict in the Middle East, like where if Bitcoin, for instance, was a hedge to geopolitical concerns, you would have expected to see it trade more closely to the incremental news related to that. I think what it has highlighted, the other side of it is it sort of reinforced my view that in a lot of ways what this is a idiosyncratic asset that is driven by whether or not there's widespread adoption. And so we have had incremental news, which you just mentioned, about a broader set of adoption possibilities, maybe is the right way to say, with the ETF dynamics emerging. And what we've seen is a trade, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is traded, the discounts traded consistent with ETF news, the actual spot market is traded with the ETF news. And so all of that is around that adoption point. And so I think the main question as an outsider, let's say, in the Bitcoin space, is really trying to get your head around what are the adoption probabilities. Because, look, if 10% of global money is put into Bitcoin and out of fiat, well, then it would be, then right now it looks cheap as all get out, right? But if the probability of success is more like 0.1%, well, then that's a different story. And so I think that's kind of that adoption question is really what's driving the market action related to it, less than the macro dynamics that are going on.
Got it. So as you look at Bitcoin in a portfolio context, like longer term, it sounds like kind of what you want to see is if people are touting it as digital gold, you kind of want to see it behave like gold. That'll make you more comfortable that it has a place in a diversified portfolio.
That's right. And I think you asked a question about will institutions bring on Bitcoin. I think the question is more centered on what do they see it as an asset? What do they see it as in terms of its asset profile? Right now, it's much closer to what you'd think about with maybe like a venture growth stage investment, right? And the attributes and the volatility and the idiosyncrasy, all of those are sort of aligned with that. Lots of institutions have venture growth allocations, right? It's not 5% of their portfolio to a single asset or a single company. It's a modest allocation across a wide range of different possibilities. And I think that's basically where institutions are at.